Hello, and welcome to episode 73 of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo, with me, forever and always, the man, the myth, boy, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
Did I do snake face?
Oh my god. On this week's episode, we get a tidbit on the Batman, have a quick discussion about M. Night Shyamalan's movies, find out that 2019 is going to be a big year for us, and check in on what we're watching, all before diving into our flick of the week, Bird Box. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
Are we doing 2019 talk? Actually, I meant to tell you that, and I was a little haphazard. I had everything, and I just tripped right before the finish line. I don't know if you looked at my notes page, but it is professional as fuck right now.
I don't look at your notes page. I actually did one thing differently for my notes, in that I actually separated my notes on the movie in pre and post spoiler.
I didn't bother doing that, and they're still not necessarily in chronological order for how I want to talk about them.
Chronological
order for how I want to talk about them, because I do allow myself, since we kind of give and take, when you bring up something, I'll jump to that, so it doesn't really matter.
That's fair.
But what I did do is, considering there is some stuff I want to pull straight from an article, like a professional, I pulled those paragraphs out rather than have to through.
Smart.
Like I told you, I came ready to go. And the whole point was I was going to jump in the shower, I was going to eat, I was going to come down, be ready to go, everything ironed out, and instead me and my dad had to talk on the phone for about 45 minutes about the idiotic idiotic decision on coaching hire that the Jets just made. So any of you who are listening to this in a couple of days, you'll have had more time to cope with that than I have had, which was nearly immediately after. An adrenaline was rushing because I just got done at the gym.
Wait, hang on. You're telling me that the Jets are the reason that, we start this call up and then I see you, no shirt, chomping on carrots and chicken.
Well, you were going to see me no shirt regardless.
I guess that's fair. I'm still not willing to accept it. I don't know. We were 73 episodes deep. The show's been off for about 70 of those episodes.
You don't have to like it, but it's going to happen. That's not a new variable.
That's fair. What are we drinking?
Well, the reason I was saying I had that brief thing there is, are we going to talk 2019 stuff? Some of what's to come?
We are, because I came across a list of 10 movies, which were exciting, and I didn't even dig deeper than that, so I thought it was worthwhile to go over at least that list.
Okay. Well, I meant more about what we have planned specifically for the show.
Oh no, that's stuff we're just gonna roll out.
I was gonna offer a little teaser to the.
You can do that. I'm fine with that.
You know what? I mean, high level, because you and I still haven't ironed out the specifics.
That's true. I'm hoping folks have recovered from our holiday episode.
Yes. I heard that some people struggled nearly as much as you.
Yeah.
I've heard some other people were excited to hear that struggle. As well as referring it to some people to listen to if they want to get a taste for what we've been doing lately.
It is some of our finest and worst work.
Well, with the caveat that what we are talking about is one of the worst things ever. And if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to that and don't know what we're talking about, again, I will not tell you what it was. You must go back and find it. It's the Untitled Holiday episode. The title has been redacted of the movie that we did. It was a joy to listen to again 6 months after we recorded it.
Right.
That being said, all a long-winded introduction to the beer of the week, which is Fixed Gear American Red IPA. That's brewed and bottled by Lakefront Brewery. It's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is nice because a lot of the best Wisconsin beers don't ever make it out of the state. Mm. We're looking at you, New Glarus.
Are we?
Well, I am, because...
Is that where I'm looking? I see you.
Anyway, it was established in 1987, which is something that Anthony brought to my attention right before we got on there.
Established 1 year before me.
I was gonna refrain. I left that up to your discretion.
That's fine.
This alcohol, by volume, is 6.8%. This beer does not have much of a story, unfortunately. But
cheers.
Let's drink it. Cheers.
Better clinking sound effects. We're off to a good start.
Pretty tasty. Not as IPA-y as I would have expected. I would have just called this, if you just gave this to me to blind taste test, I would have guessed it was just a red ale.
Yeah.
Like an Irish red?
Sure. It's good.
Tasty, just not what I expected. I expected a little bit more like an IPA.
Can you take a big whiff of that? Something funky. And I don't know if it's my glass or the beer.
What is it that you detect? Or
I don't know. The pennies?
Yes.
Okay.
Which actually isn't terribly uncommon, I think.
Okay. In what? In reds or in beer?
I
Beer
guess
writ
beer.
large.
I mean, I was just reading in the homework that I do to improve myself as a brewer. I try to read a fair amount about beer and the making of beer.
Sure.
And that was featured in something I read recently, and I don't remember what the context was.
It's because they threw all those pennies in there. You're eating a chicken wing.
You have no proof of that.
You're the worst. I'm recording this. The whole
Not
thing.
visually.
You don't know. Maybe I have a little side project that I'm going to put together.
I mean, we have discussed that, but...
You discuss. At least it's not tacos. For those of you who have been following me for a while, you may be familiar with the taco episodes of the shit show, which were just horrible. They're just hard to get through. Anyway, this is pretty good.
I always self-modulate because I'm going to be crunching on some carrots later, but I'm going to hit the mute button when I do that. Mostly,
you are.
No one would have known that I was eating the chicken if you didn't.
I appreciate that you're only a savage to my eyes and not to our listeners.
Correct. I respect our listeners. Well, I'll leave the rest unsaid.
Awesome. So this is just this is a perfectly okay beer. I'll give it my general thumbs up. I would drink it again. I'm not like over the moon about it.
No, this is pretty plain, all things considered. I've heard of Fixed Gear before. I don't think I've ever had any of those beers. Maybe once.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had this one before. It's perfectly tasty. If someone gave it to me to drink again, I wouldn't be offended. But it hasn't
I don't think you'd be offended by much beer being handed to you. Unless it was that one you poured out that one time. Oh.
The general the most cruel betrayal of all was the fact that I made that one.
It was the taste of betrayal.
It was. It tasted like a lot of things. Betrayal amongst them, I guess. Speaking of beers that hopefully won't betray me, nearly a week ago I made. So it's only been 1 week since you guys have heard an episode from us, but it's been a couple of weeks since we recorded one.
Yeah.
I officially made the first ever beer that will be sold under the Al's Ales banner.
Awesome. Very excited.
I think it came out pretty excellently as far as I could tell before I get to taste it.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited to try it when it's done. And if anyone wants to dabble in some Al's Ales, you know where to find us online.
We do.
You can
we'll
DM
make
us
that
on
work.
Twitter. You can send us an email. Do we still have the email?
Yeah.
You can send us an email. You can DM us on Twitter. And we'll talk.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm excited. I'm excited for this.
I'm pretty excited.
New adventures. New adventures. This is Ales Nitwit, right?
I'm probably not going to call it Nitwit.
I think you're going to have to call it Nitwit.
Despite the fact that it is a Belgian wit, I will not be calling it Nitwit.
So I originally meant to call it Al's Nitwit, but I spelt it ale, but I still made it possessive. And I caught it before I sent you the message, but then realized it was a stroke of genius and sent it to you anyway.
I had one of those the other day, and it was like you remember the ride home from us going to see Aquaman?
Mm-hmm.
And I did that thing where I made a great double entendre, and I didn't realize I was doing it.
Yep.
I did that in text form, except it was an autocorrect where I don't remember what it was, but it was texting with me and my brother, and I sent something that had like an autocorrect that made an incredible double entendre, and it was completely unintentional.
You're like, I'll allow it.
And he's like laughing, and I went back and I was like, "What are you laughing about?" And I looked at it, and I was like, "Oh shit, that was perfect."
Speaking of wordplay, let's get into one of these stories that I have here, and that's about M. Night Shyamalan movies. So we are probably going to be doing Glass at some point, and I imagine that what we should do is we should just do like a triple movie episode. We'll just do the whole series.
As of right now, the embargo just lifted a couple hours ago.
Yes, and that's really where I'm getting at is I haven't read through the reviews. As you know, I will not read it until I see it. I will read your headlines, though, and of general ratings. Lots of mixed results. A couple of really horrible things, though, that I need to point out right now. This is from EW.com, and this is the title of the review. M. Night Shyamalan's glass is half empty. Stop it. Just stop it.
I saw one, I think it was the one on IGN. I don't think it was in the title of the article itself. I think it was the subtitle. And to paraphrase, the joke was something along the lines of the narrative shatters into a billion pieces or something like that.
Yep, I saw that one. There was another one that really bothered me that said, reviews on Glass are split. And I was just that's enough. We'll have our own terrible ones. But I'm actually looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong person, considering I do this literally every week with our episode titles.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. I don't know. I feel like yours are a little bit more clever than that. Sometimes they're just on the nose.
I try to. I really try to until I realize that I just can't, and that's when you get the on the nose one.
Yeah, that's fair. So this past week, actually in the past 3 days, I watched Split and Unbreakable again.
I have not got around to seeing Split yet. I saw Unbreakable like a month or two ago.
Okay, so I'm caught up, is what I'm saying. So I'm ready to watch this movie and then do an episode on all of them together as one. I don't think they will each take their own episode. I think one episode, all three.
But really, it's probably going to be like 1/3 Unbreakable / Split, and then 2/3.
Yeah, probably something like that. Which
to just get a primer to it.
We'll make happen, and that. So that's actually two of my topics rolling into one. The other one was going to be things we're watching. Sometimes I like to check in on that. You like to check in on that, and that's why I brought this up. Unbreakable and Split.
I'm actually more curious to talk less about what we're watching and more what we're looking forward to watching.
Okay. Well, actually, I do have to say, what I'm no longer watching is Lovesick because I'm done. I've passed you. I've completed.
You passed me, and then I figured I'd probably leapfrog you back because I watched a bunch of episodes the other day. But I'm on the season 2 finale. I figured probably roughly in the same spot.
No.
So the fact that you laughed so hard at what I said, I figured that meant you probably saw what I was talking about. When Angus is playing craps.
It's so good. Guys,
I don't know if we said it on air yet, but me and Anthony have been talking about this for a couple of weeks now. On Netflix is a show called Lovesick. It's a British like comedy.
It's British Friends.
What?
It's British Friends.
I said British New Girl.
Yeah, that's fair too.
I said New Girl if Edgar Wright did it, basically.
Yeah.
There's only 3 seasons. They're half-hour episodes. All seasons are 8 or 6 episodes, so you can knock it out in a good weekend.
Yeah,
it's so worth it.
It's an easy and very entertaining short watch, and it is definitely a contender for binging, which is what we inadvertently had done with it. I was like, you should watch the show, and I was like, okay, and then Kim and I were like trying to decide something to watch, and we were tossed between a few things. One, we were going to start rewatching Game of Thrones and catch ourselves up right before the new season airs, and then that felt like a chore. So we decided against that, and it was like, oh, well, the show Al recommended, the episodes are only 20-ish minutes. We could do that. I'm pretty sure we watched the first season that night.
That's how I did it when I started watching. And actually, I think I watched the entire first season in one night, and then I watched 7 of the 8 episodes of season 2 in one night. I've only watched it on 2 separate nights.
It's so entertaining. I'm sad it's over. I need more.
I know. It was one of those things where it's like, oh, this is easy. I can get into this. And I was like, no, this is too easy.
Yeah. Dangerous.
That show is a delight.
It is a delight. Oh my god.
That line is going to be the gift that keeps on giving.
I love it. You should definitely check that out. Give it I don't know, give it 3 episodes. That's less than a feature length.
I was hooked by the end of the first episode.
No, I say if you give it 3 episodes, you're probably going to end up finishing the first season that night.
Well, it's just basically what happened with me. It's I'll watch an episode or 2 of this, and then all of a sudden the whole season was done. It's like, oh, that was like watching a long movie.
You know what I love about that show is the dialogue delivery is so the timing. Like it's constant, right? They're constantly delivering lines like really at a rapid pace, which can be hit or miss, but all of the dialogue tends to be so clever.
That's why I made the Edgar Wright comment about it, because it was like snappy, like the patter of the banter is like quick firing back and forth, and obviously with that like snarky, like ironic,
right? A lot
of that stuff, like, and it is hysterical. There's some feels. Constantly
making digs at each other, but they also would die for each other. They're so great. I love all the characters. I fell in love with them within the first episode. It's awesome. I absolutely loved it. But anyway, that's what I was watching. So what are you looking forward to watching?
Do we want to do this first, or do we want to tackle what you started off with?
That's really where I was. That's where I was going. That's what I'm watching.
That's fine.
Well,
Yeah, that's
more.
what I've been watching, and I'll be finished with soon, I guess. As well as the fact that I've passed the halfway mark with The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But looking forward, I was looking at some stuff, with what's to come in 2019. Some of it I don't care about too much. Some of it I do care about. The stuff that we're used to, especially Game of Thrones coming back. Super excited for that, obviously.
Yeah.
The Punisher comes out in like 8 or 9 days or something like that.
Excited about that. I feel like I'm gonna have to actually get through Daredevil first, though, and I don't mean that to sound like a chore. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, I would probably recommend it because I know Karen is back in it again.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I imagine that it'll take place concurrently or after.
That makes sense.
Season 2 of Daredevil.
3.
And season 3, you're right. But no, what really made me think about this was I'd seen a few things where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of interested in that, There's one thing I want to highlight that is upcoming. I know almost nothing about. I also forgot to bring up the story I saw on it, which I'm going to do as I announce it, and that is the new show coming out from Alex Garland. And for those of you who are not
I remember you talking about this.
Yes, the show is called Devs, as in like developers.
Sold.
Yes. So I brought this up when we did our episode on Annihilation.
Well, I know.
Roughly April-ish of last year.
Wait.
Maybe March.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy crap. I feel like we just did that episode.
Yeah, no, it was nearly a year ago, probably 10 months ago.
Good lord. What is time?
And so I was looking because I was talking about those two movies with someone was asking about something, asking for a recommendation of like something kind of outside the box. I said,
sure.
Boy, have I got the recommendation for you.
Boy, have I got the movie for you.
Movies, because I told them watch Ex Machina first.
Mm-hmm.
It'll get you kind of a good entry point to him and his weird mind, and then balsa wall Annihilation.
Yes. Watch Ex Machina, okay? The blood pressure is rising. Here's Annihilation and heart attack.
And I was like, you know what? Let me look up that show that he's supposed to be doing, because I feel like I haven't heard anything since it was initially announced. And again, there's still very little details, but apparently there was a big press release in August of last year. It's still going to be released at some point in 2019, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when yet, though. They haven't officially announced it. It'll be on FX.
FX, okay.
So I will give you the synopsis. Devs, which had previously been ordered to pilot at FX, follows a young computer engineer, Lily Chan, as she investigates the secretive development division of her employer, a cutting-edge tech company based in San Francisco, whom she believes are behind the murder of her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Sorry, not her ex-boyfriend, her boyfriend. FX has given the series...
Wow, moving on pretty quick there, lady.
Yeah, FX has given the series an 8-episode order. Alex Garland serves as writer and will executive produce, along with Andrew McDonald and Alan Reich of DNA TV, as well as Eli Bush and Scott Rudin, with whom he partnered with on the films Annihilation and Ex Machina. The series will be produced by FX Productions. So they released a series of actors and actresses who will be some of the main characters. I will read you those things quickly as well.
Excellent.
Sonoya Mizuno will play Lily Chan. For those of you who don't recognize that name, because I didn't, she worked with Alex Garland in his other two films. She was well, I don't want to give away too much of the plot, obviously. In Ex Machina, she was his assistant, who does not speak much in that movie, if at all. As well as, to those of you who don't know, I will say that she was also in Annihilation, though you would not have known it was her, because you never see her face in that movie. And
she's the bear?
Nope. I don't want to spoil anything,
no, I know.
so even I can discuss off air. Actually, she was the flower deer. Nick Offerman will play Forrest. Forrest is the CEO
Sign
of
me
Amaya,
up. Sign me up.
whose obsession is the covert work of the company's development division. And then there's Jin Ha, who will play Jamie, a gifted cybersecurity specialist who is Lily's former boyfriend. Zach Grenier, Stephen McKinley Henderson, Kaylee Spaney. I don't know any of these people, are other people who are going to play main characters. The last name on here, I do know, and that's Alison Pill, who will play Katie. She's a gifted quantum physicist tapped by Forrest to be his second in command at Amaya. For those of you who don't know who Alison Pill is, what I know her best from is The Newsroom, where she played Maggie. And she's been in a handful of other things as well.
Yeah, she was also in Vice, if you're on the current movie scene, which is something that I would encourage you to go see.
I forgot that she was in that. And
well
she was also
movie.
in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Yes, she was.
Which I did not recognize her the first 2 times I saw it.
That's actually Vice and Into the Spider-Verse are 2 other things that I have been watching this past week. It's been a week for stuff. I'm excited for that show.
Me too. The very second that I find out when that is going to be released, I will be informing you.
Yeah, that works.
I'm super excited to watch that show.
I really do love. I've got this great thing going for me, where when important things happen, or things that would be important to me, I don't even have to keep an eye out, because I've got you. You keep an eye out, and then you keep me abreast of the situation. It's great.
I have your personally curated list of important things.
I do appreciate that. Including, but not limited to, the Mountain Vodka commercial that you sent me today. Which, if you have not seen this, you absolutely need to look it up. Vodka by the Mountain from Game of Thrones. Go, just Google it. It's so worth it.
It's only like 90 seconds.
Even if you don't have any context, it would be funny.
Yes.
But if you have the context, it's hilarious.
Infinitely more funny.
Yes. Well done. So, that's something that you're looking forward to in 2019. Are there other shows that are coming out?
There were other things that are... Oh, the other new show that I'm interested in... 2 things that are coming out soon. One, which is the return of True Detective with Mahershala Ali.
I like that guy.
He's a good actor. So I'm very curious to see that after never having watched the second season, which was almost universally panned.
I watched the first 2 episodes, and I said, I've got better things to do with my time.
I was in on the trailer of the first season, and I watched the whole first season as it released, and it was phenomenal.
That first season was incredible. That was TV.
Yes, it was. So I'm excited for that.
It's actually HBO.
And like a week after that will be the debut of a limited series on TNT, which it seems like that's really all they're doing now, other than that show Animals that I never watched and I don't know a single person who watches, but apparently it's regarded well. It's the debut of I Am the Night, featuring Chris Pine and other people. And it's a story that's loosely based on a true story about the Black Dahlia murders.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a 6 or 8 episode limited series. It'll only be that one season, which, much like The Alienist, which came out last year, which was really good, I'm looking forward to this one.
I'm torn. I think limited series is a cool thing that exists, because I love the closed loop of a movie, generally closed loop of a movie. I know sometimes there's sequels and sometimes there's open endings, but I like the sit down, experience the story, be done with it. I also appreciate a good story like a Game of Thrones or something, an hour long, a nice meaty show, right, that you can get into, that you look forward to each episode after the next. But you're probably different than me in this regard with Game of Thrones. When that show ends, I'm good. I'm done for a while. I've went through some emotional turmoil, and I'm ready for a little bit of a break before the next season. And then there's your Love 6, right? There's your 30-minute, throw this on. I just like that we have all this variety. The limited series is not something that I've really gotten too much into. There's a number of them that I want to watch. So
I agree. I've been kind of the same way, but I enjoyed The Alienist. And honestly, I didn't really need that much more from that show.
Sure.
If you had told me that the cast of characters would be back to solve another mystery, I would have come back to watch it because it was well written and very well acted by a very good cast of actors and actresses. But I'm again with this sort of thing, even probably more closed, loop, because it's, while the actual events may be more fictionalized in the sense that, from the best I can understand, they never caught the Black Dahlia murderer. It's based even more in fact with more factually relevant people than the Alienist show, right, which was based on some real stuff but with very fictional people at the center of it. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious about it, and I only just heard. I've been seeing commercials about it for a while, but I only just heard about it now that Patty Jenkins is actually, I think, the showrunner on this.
Oh.
which means her and Chris Pine are working together again, which is kind of cool. She was the director of Wonder Woman and the new Wonder Woman that's coming out later this year.
Sweet. Wait, new Wonder Woman is later this year?
I thought so.
Huh. I feel like with the barrage of superhero news that is constantly on my feed, I would have heard that, but for some reason that's escaped me.
Well, I think at this point that one will sell itself.
That's fair.
And also, it's not suffered from any of the turmoil of any of the other DC movies.
Oh my god, that's, you know what? Yeah, we have our problems with DC. We've talked about them at length. I've talked about this particular thing. This is a Marvel issue that I have, and it has nothing to do with Marvel. It's the goddamn theories. There's so many every day, and I just stop it. It's enough already. Why this person thinks I don't care. Just wait till the movie comes out. We will watch the movie. We'll enjoy it. It's gonna be great.
Or base it off something that's like real. Like wait till like another trailer comes out or something.
While we're talking superheroes, a short segment here. Some information about Matt Reeves, the Batman. And I've been not excited about this. I love my Batman, but I've not been excited about this because I'm exhausted. I think unwittingly Aquaman has sparked my enthusiasm again for even a little bit. I'm still being very cautious, but I read this article that I thought was really interesting about what he wants to do with his character that they haven't done on screen before, and that is play the world's greatest detective side of it, which I think is a cool thing, and I think it could be fun to explore. The thing that holds me back is that it's still in that universe that it's currently in.
Is it?
I mean, it's all part of that same...
I mean, by the time they start shooting that movie, if ever,
right.
Will it really be in that universe anymore? It won't be Ben Affleck.
That's a good question. I don't know, but I mean, as of right now, I would assume so. They're not like tearing down the universe.
Why can't they? If
they can.
The Suicide Squad Joker and reboot the Joker again.
Oh, that's a good point. I haven't thought about that. Huh. Who knows? I guess all bets are off. Bets are off. I am curious, but do they have somebody to play him?
Who?
Batman.
No.
Because I think they talked about starting shooting in 2019, but they don't have...
Remember, I told you when we recorded about a month or so ago that they were expecting a workable script by the end of the year to be delivered. Like by the end, like within the past week or two.
Well, I will say that was at least one thing that sparked my interest, was actually focusing on the detective part of it. I think would be really cool. And at the same time, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with Badman, the Pete Holmes Batman skits. Yeah, but
fantastic.
There's just one where he just shouts, "I'm the world's greatest detective," and that's what immediately what I thought of. But then I thought of how cool it could actually be if they went into that kind of like the Arkham Asylum and like Arkham City games and all that stuff. Feeling that side of Batman like on screen, I think would be really cool. But I don't know really how they would pull it off. But that's not my problem. It's his, and if he can do it, great. I would be excited to see like that different approach. That being said, seriously, Pete Holmes, Batman, watch all of them. You're welcome.
I mean, of all the very funny lines and all the funny things, the funniest thing about it is just how obvious the mask doesn't fit and his face is popping out of it.
Yep.
Because it's in every one of the skits and no one says anything about it.
He does an entire interrogation scene skit with the Joker where he's interrogating a clown named Bubbles because he's in the wrong room. It's fantastic. Yeah. You should really watch that one. But one of my favorite lines from all of the ones combined, there's one where there's a Batman and Superman one. Superman comes up to him and he says, "I need your help." And he goes, "Why?" and then
Gordon agrees with it too. It's the only time him and Commissioner Gordon are ever on the same page in any of the skits.
Right. It's basically if Batman had severe brain damage from all of the fights that he had, this is where he would land. And he describes himself as rich and nuts. That's
also, in addition to the brain damage, was very obviously overweight and out of shape. Because he always looks like he's sweaty and sounds like he's out of breath.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wonderful. Those I want him to just release another one every year or so. I just want a little bit more of that. That's a thing that I hope never ends.
Yes, it's been a while, I guess, since
it has been. It has been, which is sad. Going back for a second, 2019. Lots of movies coming out in 2019 that I knew some of them were coming out, but like it didn't dawn on me until somebody compiled a list of them. And I know that there's way more than this that we're going to be excited about. But this list alone kind of blew my mind that this year is going to be pretty dope for movies. This is from citypages.com. I don't even know what it is. That's not really the point. The point is the movies that are on this list. So starting off, the Lego Movie 2 is coming out.
Yes.
So,
which I mean, that was a thing until I saw it in a trailer before I saw Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, there was like a teaser.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I mean, that's amazing. The first Lego movie is incredible. The next one on here, I didn't see any of these, but I am interested in How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World.
I've never seen any of them.
They look good. Of course, one you all know that we're excited about, Captain Marvel. Then I realized 3 Marvel movies coming out this year. I know we've talked about them before, but like actually saying that out loud is ridiculous, and I know that they're just out of control there. But Captain Marvel coming out March 8th. Us coming out.
Yes, which we discussed last week's episode.
Avengers Endgame, naturally. Mm-hmm. Pokemon Detective Pikachu, which I really want to see.
I keep forgetting that's a thing, but yes.
I absolutely want to see that. Spider-Man Far From Home, which is July 5th. That's not that far after Endgame.
No. It's weird. They
barely a month.
Like, they keep pushing them up, like, in the window of each year.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, wasn't Ant-Man and the Wasp in June? Well, no, not in June, in August?
I think it was August. I don't remember.
It's just weird that they're putting all 3 in the first half of the year and then nothing in the second half of the year.
Yeah, that is strange. We have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's Quentin Tarantino's 9th film. You're not a huge Tarantino fan?
No, I think at this point I'm just gonna settle with just a Kill Bill fan.
You're just what?
I'm just a Kill Bill fan.
Oh, okay, gotcha. This one I'm excited about. It Chapter 2.
Yes.
I
kind of forgot that was coming out this year too.
Yeah.
It's something I was reading today.
And Star Wars Episode 9, man. Like.
Yes.
Like what?
That goes without saying.
It's gonna be a year.
Well, come hell or high water, it's gonna be a year regardless.
We've also got a couple of mentions here. Hellboy.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I know you're not super jazzed about it, but I really want to see that. Toy Story 4, which, come on.
The teaser for that was hysterical.
It was great. Toy Story 3, I'll never forget watching this. Kim and I saw this in a theater nearby here, and it was, for whatever reason, the AC was, it was like -2 degrees, and it was a summer's day. So
yeah, I remember when we went to the movies, you were like, oh, it's like normal temperature in here. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah.
But it was freezing cold in there, and then we were hyper aware of how cold it was the entire time. And then the incinerator scene happens at the end of it, and it was just, I was cold and I was strung out. It was just, the whole feeling was bad. The movie was fantastic.
Did you ever say I was cold and I was warm at the same time?
No. When you watch Toy Story 3 for the first time, and you're at that final scene, all hope is lost. You think there's nothing left good in the world.
I thought it was pretty audacious for a kid's movie.
Yeah, it's traumatizing, straight up. Dark Phoenix is coming out, but I'm not really I'm not even interested. I will watch it.
I still never saw Apocalypse.
Joker is coming out in October, which whatever, and The Irishman, which I know you'll be interested in.
Maybe. I guess so.
Well, okay.
I was just reading about that today.
How are you not going to be interested in it?
Yeah, it seems like it's just going to be a bit too much.
Why?
Reasons that I'm not expert enough to get into, because I was just reading some blurbs because I had forgotten it existed. Or was
for those that don't know, The Irishman is Scorsese, Pacino, and De Niro, so I'm in.
Well, because I've heard the budget was completely run away because they spent millions, just shoveled millions and millions of dollars into de-aging the three of them for flashbacks. And isn't it a Netflix movie?
I think so, yeah.
Which the next one they do will be the next good one they do will be the first good one they do. Spoiler alert, guys. Actually, that's not fair. A couple of the comedies have been okay. I don't know. It just seems excessive.
Anyway, that's a quick list. There are other movies coming out that we will be excited about throughout the year, but like that just like it's January, and we read those off. That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, there's a lot to come.
There's a lot going on. Yes, news and nuggets. Any of those?
Sure. Let's do a quick one.
Okay.
We've been a little long on the last couple.
Yeah.
So this one's just a nugget about Harrison Ford. So this was a tweet that I read yesterday.
Hang on, I just gotta pause you there for a second. If you've never listened to the Hollywood Babylon podcast with Ralph Garman and Kevin Smith, Ralph Garman does an incredible Harrison Ford impersonation,
Really?
where he just mumbles inaudibly and then says a word that you can understand. And then,
wasn't that the basis of the Family Guy joke about Sting as well?
It's you just have to. Maybe you just have to go listen to one of. I'm sure he'll do it. He does it on so many of the episodes.
That was the one Peter says about Sting. You know, he's just gonna mumble a lot, and then you're gonna understand the last thing about you're gonna understand the last couple words in the line, and then they cut to Sting singing "Fields of Gold," and he's like,
"Oh my god,
complete gibberish." He's like blah 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 blah. Blah blah blah, fields of gold.
But that's amazing. But with this, every once in a while, he also throws in a sound effect. Like he'll be like, Blade Runner. And he goes, whoosh. I don't know.
He's a bad interview that sometimes is so bad it's good. Remember when I texted you a few years ago? It was a few months before The Force Awakens came out,
and
I told you I was watching him on Conan, and I was afraid for his life.
That's a notoriously horrible interview, and it's so worth the watch.
I was watching that live because I was like, I don't really watch those night shows. Like, I never really have. But I saw that he was going to be on. I was like, oh, I haven't seen Harrison Ford in a few years. Let me check that out. That sounds like it's going to be cool. And I was so creeped out about it because he just kept rubbing his legs.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah. It was creepy.
Anyway, that was all a big segue into reading you a tweet that I saw by someone named Bradley Babindier on Twitter. And he had sent out an image, and he commented on this image. He said, while we're all thinking about Harrison Ford very chilled out on the stage, this was in reference to the Golden Globes the other night.
Yeah.
Here's Michelle Phillips from the Mamas and Papas on seeing Star Wars for the first time. This is original Star Wars. This is from a book, and the screenshot is of a page from a book, and it said, Harrison Ford, before he was a movie star, obviously they were cutting off when she was talking about seeing him, says Phillips, I didn't even know Harrison was an actor. I remember getting dragged to see Star Wars at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning by my stepbrother, who had done some animation for the movie. I was sitting there, watching the screen, and all of a sudden Harrison comes on, and I gasped and said, that's my pot dealer.
Oh my god! That's incredible.
I thought so too, and I figured that.
Oh, that's so good.
On this show.
Amazing.
That's all I have. It's just that.
That's great. That was your one true nugget.
Yes.
That was a nice honey mustard soaked nugget. Moving on.
The one bite-sized piece.
To our flick of the week.
Wait, no. What?
No?
I told you I was going to do that one quick because it was.
I asked you if you had one more. If you had more, I thought you said that was it.
I said no. Let's get started with the very quick nugget.
Okay, we'll go on. What do you got?
Are you or were you a fan of The Escapist?
The games?
The website.
Oh. No? I feel like you have maybe sent me stuff from The Escapist.
Probably, although it would have been several years ago.
Yeah.
Because...
Al, you've been sending me stuff for a very long time.
Well, but I just specifically say that like that because It's been, for all intents and purposes, functionally dead as a website for probably 2 or 3 years. It kind of got swallowed up in the fiasco surrounding Gamergate.
Surrounding what?
Gamergate? I cannot believe you don't know what that is.
No.
I can understand if maybe you don't know all the specifics, but just on a high level. Okay, everyone. This is a new segment called Homework. Go look up what Gamergate is. Please don't get sucked down into the black hole that is what it is, but just familiarize yourself with it. Because if you're in any way, shape, or form concerned about some of the rise of neo-Nazism and white supremacy and the hateful bullshit on the internet that goes on, that's where it all really birthed in earnest.
Great.
Anyway, it's been revived back from its very pathetic death.
Oh, is this just about all of the shitty people that play video games?
Well, that's a lot of it, yes.
Okay. Yep. I'm doing my homework as we speak.
You know what? That's good. Because, like I said, you don't need to know every little bit detail. We could take days talking about it. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to because it makes me sad. It also makes me feel like I need a shower. Regardless, the website is back up and running with a lot of the principles from its peak of its website back involved with the website again. It was bought out by someone who used to be one of the senior editors or something like that. And it's back to functionally being a website again. And there's some cool content on there if you like movies and games and TV, stuff of that nature. And if you listen to this podcast, I imagine you like at least one of those things.
You should have maybe stopped doing this. I'm depressed now.
What?
I was reading the reading.
I told you, don't get into the full black hole.
You're right. I did. I got sucked in, and now I just feel bad about things.
Don't do that. Just familiarize yourself with it, because if you're ever confused about some of the shitty things that are going on in this country, a lot of it, certainly not all of it, but a lot of it can be explained by what went on with that about 5-6 years ago.
Gross.
Anyway, moving on.
People are
anyway,
shitty, huh?
I brought this up because I didn't know if you were a fan of The Escapists, because it was a very big site, basically almost a rival to IGN back at its peak. And I loved both sites. I went to each of them for different things. They had comics, they had all sorts of movie reviews, game reviews, stuff like that. There's a lot of fun stuff on that website before it died. And now it's back.
Sweet.
Anyway, moving on to my final new note, nugget, etc., so on. Did you see the thing about the episode 9 Christmas gift for the crew?
No.
So J.J. Abrams sent gifts for wrapping, shooting, principal photography, I believe, to a bunch of the crew members, and it was a big black bag that says IX on it, and inside of it was 2 little glass jars filled with stuff, and a note that I will struggle to read because the handwriting is a bit much. It says, "Dear cast and crew of episode 9, there are no words to properly express our gratitude and amazement. Your work has been next level spectacular, and you've done it all with kindness and respect. There are no words, but there are jackets." I think there's a jacket involved with that as well. But this picture of the 2 jars is why I brought it up, because what's inside of them, apparently there was another note, is that it was supposed to be kind of a memento of them making the movie and a little teaser, because I think they knew eventually it would make it out onto the internet. So I will read to you. Another user who seemingly has inside information about the film attempted to explain the meaning behind the bottles, claiming, "For those asking about the bottles, the sand, and it is really fine sand from a sacred place on a familiar planet. The beans are something to do with a, quote, Jedi Eater, whatever that means. It'll all be clear in December, and all NDAs aside, I really know nothing more apart from that they are one of the coolest gifts I've ever received." So, these 2 things are supposed to be an indication. Heavy favorite for the sand planet is possibly a return to Jeddah, which we saw in Rogue One, where the first Jedi Temple was. Mm-hmm. As far as the other one, no one has quite been able to come up with a viable...
Nobody knows what a Jedi Eater is?
No.
That's fair.
Or what the bean signifies, so...
I think your dogs might know.
They know something. Couldn't tell you what.
What is it, boy?
Other than having to make a lot of noise because all three of them set each other off and then just never shut up.
That's great.
Anyway, that was the end of my news and nuggets.
Sweet. You know what you did? You lit the spark. That is the fire of my anticipation.
Anticipation. It's all about anticipation.
I actually think that was the first thing that was said. Like you had me hooked. I was on it. I was hanging on every word, and then I realized, oh God, I'm going to be doing this all year. And I welcome it because until they do 10, 11, and 12, I won't have this exact feeling again.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I'm okay with that. I will say the amount of times that Star Wars has ended and then come back and started again, I'm not convinced they won't continue on with the storyline at some point. I don't know, 10 years down the line.
I imagine they will.
But
I also imagine that there will be another fairly significant hiatus as far as the actual saga, the numbered episodes. I imagine we will continue to get Star Wars content, which will make me happy. Speaking of things that I think are coming out this year, I keep forgetting that there's a new Star Game coming out. Not a Battlefront game.
Yeah. Is it coming out this year, though?
I think it's coming out this year. It's a Jedi-centric game.
Yeah.
It's been very closely under wraps.
There's a lot of stuff about those games that frustrates me, history-wise. And there was one that there were two at different points that I was very much looking forward to that ended up either one got just scrapped and then the other one lost the head of the team. So I don't know.
Which ones? I know the Darth Maul one has to be one of those.
Well, that's the third one. That was years ago though.
Because that one was really highly anticipated.
I can't remember what the name of it was. It was like a number involved, like a.
Was it Star Wars like 1313?
That's something like that. I was very interested in that one, and then that got canned.
The thing is, that one was nearly a viable game.
Yeah.
It was so late in the process was scrapped that I don't understand why they didn't just let it limp out to market because it was basically ready to go, to my knowledge.
Then the other thing was there was the Star Wars game that Amy Hennig was attached to, which I was really when I heard those two things together, Amy Hennig and Star Wars, I was like, this is going to be
that name is familiar. I'm not sure why.
Incredible. She was a director and scriptwriter for Naughty Dog.
Ah, okay.
And no longer, but she was working on a Star Wars game, and she's no longer working on that Star Wars game. And I don't know what they did with it, if they changed it. I think they went in a different direction. I think they're moving towards some other style of game. But that would have been a single player experience, story driven.
That's what the thing is. That's what is coming out.
Yeah, I know there's other stuff in the works.
I don't know if it's the exact same project, but the game that's coming out is. I don't want to just say it's that thing, but like Knights of the Old Republic-esque, where it's meant, or if you don't like that comparison, The Force Unleashed.
Oh, don't.
Yes.
I won't rule it. I loved Knights of the Old Republic. I won't rule this out. I was just saying that there have been 2 times that I've been extremely excited, and then I was quickly disappointed by a change that was made, and so we'll see what happens with this game when it comes out.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with more Star Wars. Let me be on the record. I'm okay with more Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. And obviously we get The Mandalorian.
Yes.
And The Clone Wars. And The Return of Resistance. And I think it was already greenlit for Season 2.
I've got so many things to watch.
Yes. So let's get to the movie.
Let's do it. Our flick of the week is Bird Box. You've been hearing about it. People have been tweeting about it. Is it worth the hype?
Well, funny thing, let's very quickly before we do that. You mentioned people have been tweeting about it.
Yep.
So, before you and I committed to watching this movie, I have been seeing a couple little things on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, whatever. Then, I saw nothing but this on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it reached such a fever pitch that it's funny, one of the people I followed actually tweeted out a poll. Please answer this as honestly as possible. Have you either A, watched Bird Box, or B, only ever heard of it and don't believe anyone saw it?
Okay, I'm glad that you heard that because I definitely thought that for a bit.
So there was... now, Netflix, they've done a lot of good things.
Mm-hmm.
And I applaud a lot of their efforts to try and think outside the box with some of the content they've created. Actually, probably a lot of it because I haven't seen one iota of it because they've released a shit ton of things the last couple of years and will continue to only release more things going forward. But there's a lot of reasons to be skeptical about everything around this movie. Mm-hmm. One thing that I would like to talk about, because there's a good point. I kept hearing just people talking about the movie, but no one talking about, like, seeing the movie, whether they like the movie or not. Just talking about the existence of the movie.
Right.
And Netflix is notorious for very rarely releasing any data on how many people watch any given thing.
Right.
And because it's a privately held company, I don't think it's not publicly traded. They don't have to disclose these things. And because they're not tied to Nielsen, there's no independent auditing of who watches what on this thing. Mm-hmm. So it was curious that after that fever pitch broke, there was an article about Netflix releasing the information of who watched it in the first week of its debut.
Right.
So this was from an article that I read. It came out on New Year's Eve. The article was on The Wrap, and it's called "Here's What Netflix Means When It Says More Than 45 Million People Watched Bird Box." So that was the claim that they made. 45 million people in the first 7 days supposedly watched Bird Box. Now, a definition directly from that article. Netflix counts a view for its movies as an account having watched at least 70% of the film's runtime, including the credits. An individual with knowledge of the data tells The Wrap. Because Bird Box is 124 minutes long, that means Netflix is saying over 45 million different accounts watched at least 87 minutes of the drama. That's a direct quote taken from the article. Mm-hmm. Now, they say that is all unique viewers. So this isn't someone who decided to rewatch it. This isn't multiple people with this using the same account. They're claiming that 45 million streams of this occurred in the first 7 days. Unique viewers.
Yep.
So if you watched it and then Kim watched it later, that would still only count as one view.
Right.
So what do we think about that? Because I look at that with a lot of skepticism.
I would question. It said accounts, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So accounts have. I don't know. I don't know how they define it, but there's multiple profiles on an account, and I don't know if they would consider that in their statistics as individual profiles being individual views. Because I personally would, but I don't know if they are.
But even if they did, do we trust their numbers when they very rarely release any of them? Only ever release them when they're positive.
I don't trust nor not trust. I simply don't care. But
I just find it curious because of the nature of this phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I view this with some cynicism because of the way it was marketed.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into that more once we get into the movie itself. Aspect of marketing this movie.
Okay.
Because I find some of that curious, and the ideas had not coalesced into a cohesive thought until one person said something and it finally clicked for me what I was thinking about, and I'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
I have one other thing about this.
The numbers sound like a lot, but you have nothing. You have nothing to compare it to. So most
importantly, we don't have independent confirmation of this.
Sure. Right, they're saying this, and you don't have anything to compare it against, and if you don't have a control or anything like that, it literally doesn't mean anything to me.
Now, what I do find interesting is the idea of their benchmark being 70% of the film's runtime.
Yeah, what's that about?
Because time on platform is their key metric. Think about, what do they call it? It's like view plus 3 or something like that. That's how all ad revenue on internet is, where if you watch at least 3 or 5, I can't remember if it's plus 3 or plus 5, if you watch at least 3 or 5 seconds of an ad, they consider that a view, and that's what they're paying for. Okay. So they view it based on how long. And now, a lot of things you go on run that amount of time before you can X amount, no matter how fast you are. Right?
Yeah.
So this is another quote from that same article. Marketing insight firm GBH Insights told CNBC in July that their own research found that the average Netflix customer spends 10 hours per week on its platform, compared to 5 hours for Amazon and Hulu. That I'm inclined to believe, and it gives you a pretty good context for why they consider 70% a good threshold. They don't care if you watch the whole damn thing. They just want to make sure that you're on it long enough, thinking about their products.
Sure, I would be curious. I don't know if they've done this with movies, but you know how something will play directly after something you finish, and I know so many people.
Typically, you're not going to make it through 70% of a runtime with something.
No, unless you fell asleep watching a movie.
Sure.
Which is if they were propagating that to the top of everybody's list anytime you finished a movie or finished a Netflix original.
But the thing is, if you're talking about falling asleep on it or people watching it from multiple accounts within the same account, whatever, stuff like that, that still probably is only like noise, right? It's probably a relatively small amount.
I don't know about that.
Well, as long as 50%.
I don't know that.
Do you think 50% of the people who watch Netflix fall asleep on it significantly enough that they can make it through 70 minutes of
I wouldn't be shocked if 50% of people that watch Netflix have had it on in the background without them realizing it. Whether it's they turn the TV off and not the box that is playing the thing, or if they've fallen asleep, or if they left the room.
Sure, I struggle to believe that 22 million of 45 million do that.
It doesn't have to be, but it could be a significant number. I'm
Sure.
just saying, I don't have the answer. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
My final bit on this is a follow-up on the wrap. Per Nielsen, and again, I don't know how they're measuring this, because they do not have, to my knowledge, a direct line into it. But based on their sampling data, which is typically very accurate, they claim that in that first week, 26 million people watched it.
Half.
Roughly half. Well, I guess a little more than that.
But where would they get? Are they getting their data based on polling? Like, who knows what it's?
I think they're doing it based on their own sampling, which is historically very accurate. But again, without having I don't know how they directly tie it to this, because a Nielsen box, to my knowledge, doesn't do streaming stuff. It only does set-top, cable provider, DirecTV type provider.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's what I assume. I imagine they probably have some sort of modern version of that is just auditing.
Sure, but the thing is, those are all done with agreements with the cable providers, because it's done with the purpose of companies purchasing ads and the ad revenue and how they do those deals. Since there is no ads in Netflix, I don't know why there would be any agreement with Nielsen. And since they are so adamant about only releasing the numbers they choose to release, why would they allow Nielsen that backdoor into their product?
Yeah, it doesn't. It's all very weird.
Yes.
But a lot of people seem to care more about that than I do.
Sure, I just found it to be a curiosity.
It is very interesting.
The fever pitch, because it all seemed to peak on one day.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me for the length of this conversation, but I will never think of it again afterwards.
Not within the context of this specifically, but every once in a while I do kind of wonder about this stuff, especially when you see some of the things that are canceled or renewed or sequels to or whatever, with some really objectively bad movies that have come out that they've probably spent a decent amount of money on because there's big names attached to them, and also because a lot of movies that have been really that have been released, like the Cloverfield Paradox, was basically saved. It wasn't going to get distributed anywhere because it was a bad movie, and Netflix scooped it up and played it, and they turned it into an event.
Right.
So they're doing is turning these movie releases into events. Something like Bird Box wasn't about the movie itself; it was about the event surrounding its release, right?
Right. Yeah.
And this new movie that came out, I guess, a month or two ago, Roma, it's a big event because they made a big deal. Hey, we're submitting this for Oscar consideration. Hey, we're releasing this in enough theaters to allow it to be considered for Oscars because it has to hit a certain amount of theaters. If you just release it on Netflix as a streaming thing, it's not capable of being considered for Best Picture.
Right.
And when you consider all the Marvel shows that were canceled, whose viewership justified them sticking around, and when you consider cancellation of a show like Sense8, which had, I don't know whether the numbers justified it, but its fan base was incredibly passionate. There weren't a lot of casual viewers of it.
Mm-hmm.
That it released such a hue and cry when it was canceled that they had to appease their fans by allowing them to basically make a movie to finish that show.
Right. It's interesting. The whole thing. As long as it's just a weird thing. I still don't. It still blows my mind that they make as much money. They make enough money to cover the cost of the stuff that they're producing.
I still wonder if that is even true, because
are they in the red for like a while with the intention of maintaining subscribers, which could be the case.
We don't know. We don't get that look into their books, and I wonder if it's kind of the way Amazon got its first big start. They lied about a lot of shit with their revenue and stuff like that. That made them seem like they had absurd growth, and then when people found out that they didn't have it, it's like, oh, sorry guys, we made a mistake in our accounting. We'll just very hastily pay them whatever fine you say we should pay.
I am curious. While I am curious about this, like I said, it's not something that Netflix is there. I will be honest with you. I'm one of those people that is on my family's account. Like, I'm not actively subscribing to it. That's actually, none of us are. We get it free through T-Mobile.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty sweet. But I'm happy with it. I get my movies and shows. I got to watch Lovesick.
Well, I have an account, and I've enjoyed a lot of their stuff. But other stuff I have not enjoyed so much. And just when you look at the big picture, when you zoom out, which is really tough because it's a huge fucking picture, I just find their whole business very curious.
It's definitely curious. It doesn't necessarily affect me, but it may. We don't know that.
Sure.
I guess that would be the thing that would pique my interest.
My background in business and accounting.
Sure.
You can understand why some of these things, when they don't all add up, I don't want to get onto it on air, but that stuff that I told you about, that story about that person that I know, when the numbers don't start to add up, I start to ask questions.
Sure. And I'm sure many people do. I would be curious.
And I am by no means an expert on these things. There's a lot of people who are way more.
Playing devil's advocate, there's a number of things that could be going on here. There's so much information that we don't have, that nobody has. If you want to, anything's possible, right? So this Nielsen thing, maybe they have a deal with them. Maybe they pay them to actually collect data for them, and they have an NDA.
Could be.
And
functionally, I don't know how that would even work.
Well, it's the internet, and they're tracking everything everybody's watching all the time. They can scrape whatever they want and draw any conclusions. Like, there's plenty of ways they can do this.
No. Well, yes and no.
I'm sorry. I'm saying Netflix has the data. I'm saying if they were giving that data to Nielsen.
Absolutely. Netflix has the data.
Right. I'm thinking if they give that data to Nielsen for them to draw whatever conclusions they want off that data, but then they're also saying you can't expose any of this, and maybe they're paying. I'm saying this might not be a thing. I'm just saying it's a possibility, and they can, and maybe they were like, okay, we're deciding that we're going to allow this chunk of information to be eligible to go out, and maybe Nielsen was like, okay, we'll release our version of it too.
Sure, but the initial disclosure was direct from Netflix. It wasn't from Nielsen. The follow-up from Nielsen, which halved the number, was made with no direct quotes from Netflix itself.
So it's interesting.
And that's why that sort of stuff.
This is the type of information, though, that is just a waste out there for me. It might make sense for business folks that are somehow involved financially. But for me, it's not relevant.
Those things I wonder whether or not Netflix is a going concern. And since they have a lot of products that I enjoy and a lot of products that a lot of people enjoy, I always worry when I start to see things like that.
Where's my money going?
It will no longer have those things that I enjoy.
Right. Where's my money going? That's your question. My question is, where's T-Mobile's money going?
Anyway, let's get into the movie itself. I just found all of that to be a little bit
interesting. It is interesting.
Consider the viral marketing of this movie, and to the credit of the person who put that poll that I started this whole story off with, I was seeing a lot of talk about Bird Box and didn't hear anything from anyone I know directly or indirectly who actually said anything like, hey, the movie was good. Hey, the movie sucked. It was just the existence of the movie.
Yeah.
That's weird. And we already know about a lot of the BS sock puppets and stuff like that going on online. I wonder sometimes how real the conversation around the movie was.
Oh, for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if a large chunk of it was bots just to get hype rising around it, whether it's hashtags or ads or whatever, just to get it trending so that you see it gets to the front of your, to the front of your feed. And then if you're a person that is super into social media, you probably did put the movie on and you probably weren't paying attention to it. You were probably tweeting about it. And I honestly believe is a very real way that they could have actually gotten those numbers.
Sure, I can say because you said you wanted to do this, I tried to give it my undivided attention and largely succeeded in that. But I didn't say anything about it to you. When you were here and we watched the trailer for it, I was like, I'm not really feeling this. I don't care. And then once I saw that whole thing, I was like, you know what? Just like with some of this other shit that they've tried to hype, like the Adam Sandler stuff, the Cloverfield Paradox, Bright, a lot of it's very cynically made or cynically advertised, and I don't want to give it my time, and I felt pretty justified by what I've heard about those other movies. And I was going to do the same with this as well. You wanted to do it, and I'm okay with it. It's not really the end of the world.
I watched the trailer, and the trailer did make me interested in it. As you all know, The Quiet Place was a big win in my book, and this is reverse Quiet Place, and that's why I was interested in it.
And knowing my math feelings on Quiet Place, you can understand why I wasn't super hyped for this.
For sure. I didn't expect this would be a movie for you, and I'm not necessarily saying it's a movie for me. I thought overall I enjoyed watching it in that I was on the edge of my seat for a good chunk of it. Curious what was going on. I realized probably about when you watch a movie like this, you reach a threshold where you go, okay, I'm not going to get answers to certain things. I need to be okay with that to get through the rest of this.
Yeah.
And I found that out. I realized that pretty early.
And that's why I said some stuff about this was kind of a cynically made movie because, first of all, I'm sure I'm not even doing it justice. I'm sure you could come up with other things. But this movie comes off as a ripoff of A Quiet Place, of The Happening, of It, to a certain extent. Those three movies were the ones that most quickly jumped to mind while watching this. Aspects of each of those I saw pretty obviously displayed in this. I'm sure there are others.
I'd be curious. Well, I didn't see The Happening, so I'd be curious what that correlation is.
The whole concept, without any sort of spoiler, with The Happening is people start en masse committing suicide.
Okay.
Due to an unseen thing.
It's like a virus or something.
Yes, well, again, I don't want to spoil what the actual thing was, but it's not unseen creatures in this case. It's something more insidious.
Okay. And then why... sorry, what was the other two? Why It?
Because each of them had their own personally tailored greatest fear that caused their deaths.
Okay. Huh. Okay.
That was not an aspect of The Happening. There's never any reflection as to what's causing the people, like on a specific level like that.
I can see why you would think the script of the movie was written based off of some analysis of what people have been trending over the last year.
Well, that's what comes down to this. I don't want to call it paint by numbers because that's a decidedly analog comparison. I believe that this movie was written by algorithm and casted by algorithm.
Well, let's pause on that for a second, because I actually have a note here that I think fits right into that theory. So, don't take this the wrong way. I realize I don't mean anything offensive by this at all.
To me or the audience?
To everyone.
Okay.
I do think that diversity in the workplace and in movies, and I think that is a good thing. The diversity in this movie is strikingly obvious.
Oh, that's not even what I meant when I was talking about read by algorithm. Not even.
No, I know. I'm just adding. This is a note that I had, and I think fits into that. The core cast at the outset of the movie is almost as if they are checking boxes.
Yeah, I could see that. But I also understand why they would do that.
It doesn't.
And
It doesn't
I'm
not
saying,
make sense, but it feels
well,
artificial.
for two things. One, because of their opportunity to do that sort of thing, to try and push things in that way, considering there's been a stunning lack of it up until the last couple of years.
Sure.
But also, it kind of made sense within the setting of the movie in kind of an unnamed Californian city.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm just saying it was like it could fall into what you're saying though. It feels like there were so many different things. There's always going to be something underrepresented, and you can spot that as well. But there were so many. It felt forced to a degree.
I actually never felt that way.
But it's passable though
forced.
because of the situation at hand.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It didn't feel unrealistic. If this took place in, Taiwan, it would be a little odd for the diversity of the cast.
Yeah, that's true.
In
That's fair.
a Californian city, seems like it's pretty on the nose. When you consider a lot of Californians are transplants.
Maybe. There was something about it that I think when you were bringing that up and what I know about what's going on, it felt like, and I'm not I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this. I'm just saying that it felt artificial to me, and that could be my own ignorant bias, and I wouldn't have preferred it a different way. I'm just saying that I noticed it out of the gate, and I thought that was a little interesting.
See, and this is the point that I was talking about when I said there was something that I needed someone to have it all click together, and that's what it was. Is that it seemed very calculated who was all together. Again, not to fill diversity quotas, but instead recognition quotas.
Well, here's why I'm not going to name the specific characters because I don't want to spoil anything just yet, but there are a handful of characters that arguably do not matter at all.
Well, that's going to happen no matter what.
But
sure, that's definitely a thing.
They don't progress any portion of the story as far as I'm concerned, except maybe one of the three that I have listed here, which we can get into in the spoiler territory. And I will actually like to circle back to this because I'd be curious what your take is on it. But that's where it felt like, okay, that's why I feel like the box ticking thing is there, because then they were just like, okay, now that we've had all these people on screen, we can get rid of a few of them. And it wasn't even... It's very odd. Well, if you can stick around post spoilers, I encourage you to, because I would like to talk about how.
Well, do you want to just get to that, or do you want to touch on some stuff before we get spoilers? Because there's more to this conversation that probably should go into the.
Okay, so there's a couple things I just want to point out real quick. Is it worth the hype? I don't think it is.
Definitely not.
I thought it was. I was entertained. I was definitely hooked the entire movie. And I think it does suspense pretty well. And if you can get past the you're not going to get all your answers type thing, it's worth a watch. It could have just been a suspense thriller, but I thought they added some interesting flawed characters at the center of it, which I actually did like. I liked what they did with I like with Sandra Bullock's character, John Malkovich, their relationship. And what was his name? Chris? Tom. Why did I think Chris? Is there a Chris?
I don't know.
No, there's a Felix. Anyway, yeah, Tom's character. I like the actor that plays Tom a lot.
Trevante Rhodes.
And I think, I actually thought he kind of stole the show for me. A bit.
Yeah.
And
again, that kind of goes to what I'm talking about when I say paid by numbers or paid by algorithm.
Yeah, well, I thought they did. I thought their chemistry was actually really interesting and really well. But there was a nice balance between the writing of those two characters, and I liked that. I liked the way that worked. That played out throughout the movie.
No, the core relationships at the heart of the movie make it worthwhile enough to bother getting through.
Yeah.
But that makes the movie just fine.
Sure.
Just fine from an entertainment value. It's not a very good movie.
No, it's not. But I was, like I said, I was entertained in that particular thing. I thought the characters were written well, for the most part.
The ones that they gave enough.
The ones that had lines, I thought
the ones that had enough dialogue were fairly well written. The ones who didn't weren't.
Right, and then there was one. every movie's gonna have its flaws, right? And I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of lists out there of like, oh, everything wrong with Bird Box, right? There was just one thing that was actually immediately jarring to me, where while this epidemic this is happening, people are hysterical, but in my opinion, they weren't hysterical enough, and that was the only thing that I thought a little bit jarring. Like, I felt like I was more like, what the goddamn hell, than the people running around on the street were. There was everybody that ends up in the house early on in the movie, that is like the main, I don't know, the first 2 acts of the movie, they're all together in that house. Like, they were a little too calm getting to that point, I thought. They were hysterical to a degree. It just felt like it would have been I think in a real world situation, as real as it could get, if something like this were to happen, that would have never lasted that long.
Sure. Actually, I guess the bigger issue I had was really up to the point where everyone gets there and then they just take a breath.
Yeah.
The problem was, and it wasn't all the characters, but some of them felt like, you know, when you're playing a video game and you talk to an NPC who like has like the one that you have to, like when you're playing an RPG and you like have to ask them for information about backstory to what's going on. Like, they felt that way, like where it was very instructional. Yeah,
like all of a sudden somebody walks back into the room and it's like turns in front of a character and they're like, "My wife died. She was outside." like just a canned response that was almost repeated.
What I'm talking about, right? Where you see like a text wheel or a text list and you ask them this question for backstory on this,
and they have basically the same answer or a canned response for everything.
Well, yeah, just like everything sounds like it's about to be a part of a mini lecture by a professor.
Right. Oh my god, that's really funny. I didn't think of it that way, but this was an RPG in action.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, we're free to go into spoiler territory if you are.
Okay.
All right, so just circling back real quick about characters that I thought were unnecessary, and this is what back to the box ticking that I was talking about. I've got 3 character names listed here: Lucy, Felix, and then I have Charlie-ish. Lucy and Felix are not integral to the plot at all.
Yeah, well, that's when you say box checking in the perspective you're talking about. It's the box checking that I'm talking about. First of all, these characters didn't need to exist at all because they weren't even plot devices, which is why I don't have a problem with Charlie being there because he's a plot device. He's again. NPC in an RPG.
Yeah.
He literally exists to forward the plot.
Well, he gives you... The thing is, he starts to give you a little bit of explanation about what could be going on.
Yeah.
But,
and then he leads them to the place where they learn and they achieve and they get some stuff. He's a plot device.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. And so that's why I say Charlie-ish. Okay, I will allow... Charlie is... I will take the ish off. I will take Charlie off the list. But Lucy and Felix are completely unnecessary.
Absolutely.
And so much so that if you want to put unnecessary people in your thriller horror movie, you need to kill those people.
Instead of leave them open-ended?
They just left. They were not interesting. They just left. They came in, they hated each other, they had sex, and then they left.
Yeah,
that was it.
Again, this is why I said, well, you said diversity. One of them is white, one of them is not. When I say algorithm, Machine Gun Kelly is a popular person who will show up in things, is pop culture relevant.
Right.
And as is Rosa Salazar, who will be playing Alita in Alita Battle Angel, who was in the Maze Runner movies. Again, she
and Parenthood.
Well, I didn't watch it. I just
a
know
good
that
show.
she's in 2 things. I'm sure she's in other stuff too, but those are the things that I know.
Yep.
She is from or will be in. And when I say algorithm, these 2 names come up as being culturally relevant. Trevante Rhodes, an up-and-coming star, culturally relevant. Sarah Paulson, American Horror Story, culturally relevant. Lil Rel Howery has his new show. Rel no one had ever heard of him before Get Out, and now he's a big deal because of him steam stealing in that. He got a show off of that. He was in that.
How good was he in Get Out?
Yeah, no, he's great. And then you get your two anchors in Sandra Bullock and John Malkovich, two recognizable stars who are, in things and who are going to be, where probably 80% of the budget went to their salaries.
Right.
So when I say checking boxes, that's what I'm talking about. Is the algorithm achieved something of the combination of all these other movies, especially Quiet Place. People talked about that movie a lot, and people talked about that movie a lot. And all these actors and actresses, people are or will be talking about them a lot. Let's get out in front of that, or let's ride on those coattails, respectively.
Yeah, it is almost in your face to what you're saying.
And that's why I said it's so cynical, because when I said checking boxes, it's this famous person, check. This famous person, check.
I wouldn't.
This immediate association. If you like The Quiet Place, because think about it, anytime you want to watch a movie that you can't find on Netflix. Well, we don't have that, but you might like this. Mm-hmm. This movie is the poster child for that whole bit of that algorithm on the fucking app.
All right. I wouldn't be surprised that, if you told me that it was basically, pseudo AI, just pulling this information together and telling you, these particular ingredients would make for a movie that would get a significant number of viewers, I would say absolutely. That makes total sense. And I would not be surprised in the least. And I... part of me believes that's probably what's happening. They have a crap load of data. A lot of people have a crap load of data now, but Netflix especially. And they could do interesting things with that. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with it, but I do think that it's a legit possibility.
Yeah, and that's part of the issue that I have with the making of these movies. I could feel it before I even knew any of these things, and then when I sat down to watch it, I was just like, man, I don't know. It breaks my immersion, where it feels unnatural. It feels like it's made by a computer. Even though the director, I actually realized once I looked her up, I kind of liked some of the stuff that she's done. She was the director of all the episodes of The Night Manager. I really enjoyed that show. Yeah. I've talked about it on this show a bunch. Yeah. And it also is a good indication as to why Tom Hollander was in this movie, because he would not have fit the algorithm model that I was pushing here. That being said, in his very small amount of screen time, he fucking crushed it. He's a really good actor in the little bits that I've ever seen him in, and this is the third thing that I've seen him in. So
was he Gary?
Yes.
Yeah, that guy was creepy as hell.
Well, he was supposed to be.
I know. He pulled that off real well.
And he played just as creepy and even more outright malicious person in The Night Manager, which he did a great job of. And going on with the malicious thing, the first thing I ever saw him in, although I didn't recognize him again until I looked him up, do you remember the second and third Pirates of the Caribbean movie? Broad strokes.
Yeah, probably enough of them.
Do you remember the British officer who comes over in the second one and arrests them and sets off the plot, the whole thing? He was the one who wants the chest. That's him.
Okay, yep.
So he does evil, and he does malicious, and he does creepy very well.
yeah, he does. Man, did he nail creepy.
Yeah.
That was one of my notes. Gary was creepy as hell, is what it says down here under post spoilers.
Yeah, no, he fucking nailed it, because when he comes in, I was like, okay, I already know who this guy is. He's gonna be bad somehow.
Yeah.
And then he told the whole story about the crazy people. I was like, so he's one of the crazies, right?
Yeah.
And then he took out his little, sketchbook, and I was like, oh shit, he's so much more crazy than I thought.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is there's that one scene where, wait, who ends up shooting him?
Tom.
Tom shoots him. So he's got his eyes closed. And Gary is snipping scissors to distract him with the sound and swiping side to side.
No, that was actually John Malkovich.
John Malkovich? That scene was creepy as hell.
Yes.
And, oh yeah, because that's when he stabs him. Does he go over the railing or something?
He wings him with a shot.
Yeah.
He gets up on him, they both go over the edge, and then he stabs John Malkovich in the chest a bunch of times and says, I'm sorry.
That was so scary. And then him telling them to make the babies look, I was like, yeah. But part of me was wondering how that would have gone down.
Yeah, realistically, it got to the point where that was really the only time I like felt some genuine concern for what was going on. I was like, wait, is this why everyone's talking about this movie? This is going to be the movie with the infant suicide?
Right.
How does that work? That was something me and my sister talked about, because she's like, I feel like you should just show the babies it, like, they wouldn't really be. I was like, I don't even want to know what that looks like, a baby trying to kill itself, because you're right, it doesn't really have the motive power to do it. I was like, like swallow its own tongue. Like,
it just stops breathing.
I guess. Like, that's incredible body control for beings that basically can't control anything about their own body.
And then, well, I was curious if there was going to be like some sort of purity aspect to it, where one of the babies was exposed and nothing happened.
They can't comprehend it or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. That could have been interesting. But that would have been if you were going down the route of trying to explain whatever the hell this was, which
they never had any interest in doing.
No, they didn't. And here's where I could see with the parallels. Obviously, anybody could see or not see the parallels between this and A Quiet Place. But A Quiet Place, I thought, was a great movie. And I thought they did a good job of... They did a good job in that movie of... There's enough information there. You know what the things are. You have a general idea of how they got there. And you get an arc of like the confusion, understanding their weakness, and then exploiting it.
Well, I'll tell you a big difference between the two. When I was done watching A Quiet Place, even though I couldn't understand what anyone was saying...
That's your fault, man.
Is it, though?
It is.
Mostly Damien's fault.
Ow.
For not telling me to put the subtitles on.
He didn't know you were going to watch it.
Didn't he? We told him
I don't know.
Anyway, regardless. I felt like at the end of that movie, we had a pretty decent idea of the rules.
Yes.
I didn't feel that way when this movie was over.
Well...
I didn't feel like I fully understood the rules.
You didn't understand? I don't know.
Well, I will say that I feel like the rules changed at times.
Explain.
Well, listen. On the surface, at the very beginning, don't look at them. That's an easy enough rule. I get where we're at with that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the whole, well, are they corporeal or are they not? Because they're setting up the sensors, and they're climbing on the thing, but like they don't try and force doors open. And then we realize, okay, like they don't grab you, they don't yank the blindfold off you, they don't break into windows, they don't force open doors. So why are we? Once we realize we just don't need to look at them, why are we ever really afraid of them?
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of the movie when we're running, like that was a big problem for me for the end of the movie was at that point there was just no more suspense anymore.
I've got a big problem with the running scene. Go on.
Because at that point, like she understands, she just tell the kid, listen, no matter what, you don't take the blindfold off. What she says annoyingly, but like she's running with the kids.
Yeah.
She already knows the rules. She's been surviving for 5 years, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
it was some time had passed.
She could have just grabbed the kids, held her hands over their eyes, and just sat there until her heart rate like came down.
Yeah.
They can't hurt you. We know this. You know this. You keep telling us that they can't hurt you if you don't look. So just don't look and we're good.
Right.
So there was just not much drama at that point. And then there's the whole thing with the voices, because they never do the voices thing really. Like you hear some whispering and mumbling, but nothing. No one ever gets convinced to take their things off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Until the end, where it's like I can make a million voices of everyone you've ever known and loved, and they're wooing you with candy and puppies. I mean, with your loved ones who are gonna come and I'm here. You're safe now. Like I'll just take care of you. And then we get to the end, and we get into the school for the blind, which explains how all those people are alive. If
right.
Most of them are blind, can't see them, they're safe. Which, I'm on board with that stipulation.
Yeah,
okay.
That's kind of cool.
But there was a bunch of people in that place who weren't blind.
Right, including the doctor from the beginning, which is just a random-ass callback.
I actually like that.
It was cool. It was just random.
A little bit random. I guess just kind of to bookend the story.
Yeah.
But the thing is, she gets there and they walk out into the open courtyard in the middle of the thing, and there's clearly open roof above them because there's sunlight streaming in. And I get that like the windows are barred and most of the people are blind, but those things already climb on top of cars and buildings.
Wasn't it covered with?
There was ivy, but you could see through.
That's true, but you could also kind of see through the blindfold they were wearing, which didn't make a ton of sense.
Sure. But the bigger picture actually is that a school full of blind people will eventually fall victim to the crazies, which will be pretty sad too.
Hmm.
But open courtyards, usually when you don't want to be able to see things, problematic for those of you who can see. And then there's the whole thing with the crazies where, well, how crazy do you have to be safe from the creatures? Do you have to be full-on schizophrenic, multiple personality disorders, full psychopath? Are you just bipolar? Is that enough? Like, how crazy? What's the crazy threshold?
You are pulling on what my problem is, and that is, normally, you can do something like this. You can do something like that and not fully establish the rules and still enjoy it if that's not the main point of the movie.
Yes, but that is the main point of the movie.
That is, unfortunately, yeah. So, like, this, I feel like that's what could have made the movie good. Like, they explored the characters for a second, for maybe, I don't know, actually, maybe 2/3 of the movie. I thought they explored the characters pretty well. But the third act doesn't seem to have much to do with them at all. It's just this thing. And now you're getting into the territory where, if you're going to make this the finale and this the important part, then you do have to start explaining it yourself. And they didn't. And the more you think about this, the more it feels like it was created, written, filmed, and directed by a robot. But we all know that wasn't. That's not 100% true.
Yeah. And as far as, I'll tell you how I experienced this movie to a certain extent, right? I didn't just watch it. I had seen the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So when they kick off with her explaining to the kids the deal and they get on the river, that's the first thing we see.
Yeah.
I was it felt a little jarring. I was like, oh, what about all that other stuff? Because that looked really interesting, like the whole fall of civilization thing. It's probably going to be the best material. I thought we were getting more to our cast here. I was like, oh man, are we just going to get that in a flashback? I was like, is it what we saw in the trailer basically the whole bit of that we're going to get? And then we find out that probably the 2/3 of it are the past storyline. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. We're going to kind of bounce back and forth between the two things. That can make for a cool storytelling device. But then as we actually got 3/4 or more way through the movie, I was like, man, this movie would have been so much better if they just did it linearly.
Oh, you thought so? I enjoyed the bouncing back and forth.
No, because I said by the time they got to it, because they did it all back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
And then they went full blown.
Time, and like I said, all lack of drama post Tom dying wasn't any sort of drama anymore. And we also probably knew that he was going to die because he wasn't getting on the boat with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like how that tied back together with how that led up to that moment at the start of the movie. But if they had made it more linear, they could have really trimmed a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have built to that natural fever pitch, and it would have actually artificially, considering so much of the movie feels artificial, it artificially would have felt a little bit more stressful if we just kept building and building and building to that last rush.
Maybe. What I actually thought was going to happen the whole time was I thought we were going to get this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, up to the point where it syncs up, and then they weren't going to make it. I thought that's what was going to happen.
It's possible. I did wonder whether they would go that dark. When you choose to not name your children and they're named boy and girl, you do wonder, because that is just as much... It's her coping mechanism, right? So it never feels... So she never actually feels like their mother so much as they're just their caretaker.
Right.
And it desensitizes us to them as well because they're not real humans if they don't have names.
Mm-hmm.
That's like ingrained in us subconsciously. So I wondered whether that might make it possible. Again, is this going to be the movie about child murder? Until the point, like I said, I never... Once it got to the point where they keep threatening to take off their mask, I actually never felt like they were going to.
You know what's really ridiculous about that naming thing? Is the girl's name is fine. We get it. That makes sense. Nothing for her to be alarmed about. Oh, cool. I have a name. The boy is old enough to remember Tom to then be named.
4 days earlier.
That, when she said Tom, I half expected the boy to go, what? That's weird.
Oh, like
Tom's my dad?
Yeah. Well, he has no concept of what a dad is, so I suppose from that
They did some pretty good homeschool in those 5 years, though.
Did they?
Considering.
That's news to me.
Here, hold this bell. Don't take your blindfold off. The rules are not very hard.
And how good was the homeschooling, considering everything she asked them to do, they kept almost not doing?
They're little kids.
Stay in the boat and don't move. I'm going to not stay in the boat, and I'm going to move. Don't lift your blindfold. I'm going to keep almost lifting my blindfold.
Stay in the boat and don't move. I will give you 5 minutes of staying in the boat and not moving before I move and get out of the boat.
And do that thing that is the one consistent thing you have tried to teach me from the moment I could, like, conceptually understand spoken word. Don't take off my blindfold. I'm going to just take it off now.
Kids are curious. The kid has no reason to understand. They probably haven't come across another person that has seen whatever it was and then killed themselves.
Yeah, but fear is a great motivator, right?
That's true.
When your quote-unquote mother basically acts like she's just going to kill you if you don't take the thing off, or if you take the thing off, maybe don't take it off.
I've got another interesting rule-breaking situation for you.
Go on.
Tom.
Yes.
Fought it long enough to kill the guy from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, that one was in there too.
Baba
I
Yaga.
was just willing to chalk it up to force of will, that he had the greatest force of will of anyone, that was like, let me save these people who I love life. But yeah, it's technically, if not breaking the rules, bending the rules. But I actually liked it as kind of a testament to the strength of his love.
Yeah, all right. Sure. I did like that as well, but when you start to really tear it down, it's like, why do you get that one?
Well, because again, like I said, at least there was a message behind it, probably. Because the thing is, that's the problem I have. That's the problem I have with this is very early in the movie, where it led to, at least I was led to believe that this was going to end up being kind of an allegorical type movie, a la The Happening and A Quiet Place, which both have their messages. We won't get into the one for The Happening again if you don't want to have it spoiled for you. A Quiet Place, again, I don't want to get into too much, but there's a message behind that, right? I thought the message in this one was going to be about isolation in society, because they kind of really heavily lean into it with that first conversation between her and her sister, right? I realize I don't remember either of their names, Mallory and Jessica. And then that doesn't come up at all ever again the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Because I thought that's what it was going to be all, because, like The Quiet Place, about being quiet, there's a lot of different things people have read into all that, and all of them, I think, have varying degrees of truth to them. I thought this one was going to end up being about isolation in our society and this and that, and how it affects us and stuff. But typically, if you want to promote anti-isolationism, an entire movie about shutting your eyes isn't a great way to do it. Where the message that's drummed into you the whole time is, don't look.
Yeah.
Because, again, without spoiling, The Happening, there's something like that too, where it's like, there's a certain thing that they're promoting, and then at the end, you have to turn it on its head to survive. In this one, that never comes back around, so that's not what's going on, obviously.
Yeah.
So as far as messaging, again, when you said this movie feels like it was made by a robot, that's the type of lacking in nuance and ulterior motive in subtext that a robot would struggle with.
It's funny, like it has like all these concepts that individual, like enough groups would get that you could probably get a crazy diverse audience to watch it, right? Where they would like. I thought the conversation between Sandra Bullock and John Malkovich's character in the kitchen was actually the most interesting part of the movie.
The one about his wives?
About her father.
That too?
Yeah.
The same conversation.
Yeah, I know. But that particular, I thought that was interesting. That was like character exploration that I'm super into. And then there was, it has the horror enthusiasts based on friggin' scary. But then there's the relation, there's like the sister's relationship, and there's like little pockets of it as if it was just put together, and then none of it ever really goes anywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that make for the kernels. The best way I could describe this movie is that it is definitely less than the sum of its parts, because there's a bunch of parts here that could have made for a compelling movie.
Yeah.
That they never add up to something compelling enough for me to justify the time I spent watching it.
Agreed.
Not that it was horrendous. There, like I said, there was enough good there. Some of the horror suspense elements were pretty good. There was some scenes where I was definitely kind of on the edge of my seat, especially the scene with Gary going through the house. That's a legitimately great sequence.
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to say, watching the movie, I was engaged, and overall, it's the aftermath that I think more about it, and then I'm like, whatever. But there's two things that I need to talk about right quick. One, what is the creepiest thing that Gary did?
Probably. It's got to be when he forces that girl's eyes open.
Yeah, that was pretty scary. For whatever reason, I don't know if I was desensitized by that point, but him kind of whistling and moseying about and then putting the birds in the freezer, creepy as hell to me.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Also you could make an argument, again, this is great acting. I actually was very physically unsettled when he asks Mallory to give him the baby.
Yep.
And she won't, and he says, if you don't give it to me, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
Like, that was the first time where it was not just like, oh, this is a creepy thing, to like, oh, this is a creepy thing.
Yeah. that was terrifying. Yeah, forcing the eyes open was terrifying.
I felt that viscerally. I believed in the moment, I'm going to come take your baby.
I remember there was a scene early on before you have any real reason to expect him, other than you're paying close enough attention, that when it I don't remember exactly what happened, but I was just like, oh, I don't like it. And Kim was like, what? I was like, this guy. About Gary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing that this really, like, this is the one point where I think I actually said something out loud because I was frustrated, very angry. And it kind of ties into your, they can't touch you, so why are you running away thing. You get one trip in the forest. If you do 2, I might let it pass. But you did 3. And you did 3 within 2 minutes. And that is just unacceptable.
Yes.
Like, we saw this scene already. Stop it. I'm pretty sure you just put camera 2 on. And it was the same trip.
It was like, I think this would have been within the episodes of Archer you watched. Do you remember the one with Burt Reynolds?
I think so.
When Burt Reynolds is dating Mallory.
Uh-huh.
And Archer kidnaps him because he doesn't want her dating him anymore. And then the rest of the group all gets attacked by a Cuban hit squad.
Yep.
And Burt Reynolds and Archer have to chase after them to save the day. And Burt's driving the car that Archer has, and Archer's like, no, this is even too much for me. No, adrenaline junkie. They get onto the scene on the bridge, and they're racing on the bridge, and Burt Reynolds goes, watch out this little maneuver. And he, like, does the gear, not Gears of War, I don't know, Grand Theft Auto, where you, like, hit the car in the back and tee it up and drive it, and it goes shooting off the bridge. And you're like, oh, shit, that was badass. And they keep going on with the rest of the chase scene, and then they run into a car, and it goes off exactly the same way. And Archer goes, wait a minute, was that stock footage? And Burt Reynolds, like, just laughs it off. Like,
That's awesome.
It was very obviously the same exact car shooting off the bridge in the exact same way and splashing it was very obviously recycled stock footage.
I love it. Oh my god, that's so funny. Anyway, that's all I've got on this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I tackled most of it. The only other thing is I just found it odd that for Sandra Bullock to be the leading reason that you're going to watch this movie, other than all the other things that the algorithm is plucking your brain to get you to watch, she's a really good actress.
Yeah.
And some of these scenes she did a really good job of. Especially all the stuff in the past. She looked like she was mailing it in through the whole present. With the kids. Like, You're supposed to get shot like a drill sergeant, like that very opening scene, and I was just like, geez, tone it down a little bit. Like, it's so put on. And, like, this happened a bunch of times throughout. I felt like that part of the storyline. Everything in the past storyline, totally bought it. I thought she nailed it all. Including, like we said, her relationship with John Malkovich, her relationship with Trevante Rhodes. I thought she did a really good job through all of that, which is what made it so jarring that I felt like she did such a bad job in the present-day storyline.
I don't know. I didn't actually feel that way about the present. I just thought that she was... I thought it was a continuation of her completely distancing herself from boy and girl and, like, being more frustrated by their existence and the responsibility that she now bears and the whole, I didn't want this, but I have to deal with this.
That was certainly, the dialogue said that to me. So from that aspect, they did a decent job of that, but man, I just felt so hollow. Like,
I think I would have to rewatch it to see exactly what you're talking about.
It made me want to distance myself from it because it was just like, wooden. I don't know.
I would have to rewatch those scenes, which is not a thing that I'm going to do. So unfortunately, I won't. I won't be able to really. I do think. I mean, this is going to sound weird after all this talk. I actually think it's worth the watch, even if just for your own, like, education on what's, like, this curiosity that Al's got with Netflix and their numbers. I thought there were, like I said, there's pieces of the movie that are really good. I think you could take certain clips, like I said, that conversation between Sandra Bullock and John Malkovich. I think that is actually really excellent exchange between two characters with really well-written dialogue. There's little chunks of that. There's, like, these weird vignettes through the movie that you can watch on their own that standalone could be very interesting, but altogether it doesn't make a ton of sense.
I am not going to refer you to watch this movie because you could just watch A Quiet Place and The Happening, both movies that are not that good but are better than this one, which it's very obviously ripping off. And furthermore, you won't further their BS of their movie making, make them actually up their game and make good movies, because that's why I refuse to watch Bright. It's why I refuse to watch any of the Adam Sandler movies. I'm not going to watch something that you're very obviously just trying to manipulate me into watching, knowing that it's not good because you didn't actually take it seriously, or maybe took it too seriously, because Bright made itself look like it would be very much ripe for parody and self-parody that it obviously didn't do based on what I read. And I don't want to contribute to those numbers because I don't want you to... They already fucking greenlit Bright 2, which, what the fuck? I want them to make good things because they're capable of it. I hold them to a higher standard because I know they can do it.
Right.
Their TV is really good. A lot of it. I obviously haven't watched all of it. A lot of their original shows are really good. Mm-hmm. Why not do that, but in a movie? I don't understand. And with this sort of thing, like, you can't tell me that House of Cards or BoJack Horseman or any of those other shows that are really good are done by robots, because they're not.
Well, I don't know.
Hell, even the only one of their movies that has been any good was a comedy that came out this summer. It was called, I think it was To All the Boys I Loved Before. I watched it. My sister and her friend wanted to watch it. They wanted me to watch it, so I humored them because I make Gianna watch a lot of stuff.
Yep.
It was legitimately good. It's not a great movie, but it was a legitimately good comedy. Did you see it?
No, I wanted to. I will say we will keep on this Netflix train, and we will watch more, and we'll watch more of their stuff through this lens, because I think that's what's going to be important is to focus on it and see how many other things that come out fit this bill, because I'd be very curious if that's the case. I really hope that we're right about this. and that comes out.
Just be better, because I know you're capable. That's my
I hear you. That being said, I do need to circle back to one thing that you said. I know you didn't care for it, but I will reiterate. I thought that A Quiet Place was excellent. And I think you need to watch that.
I understand why people liked it, and I don't begrudge them that, because there's enough quality in that movie why I get why you'd like it. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah,
and I obviously had more issues with the plot and the world than you did, and that's fine. We can
A Quiet Place wasn't for you. Bird Box is trying too hard to be for everyone.
Yes.
Oh man, we have to go out on that.
Yes,
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Flix and a Six. We hope you enjoyed yourselves. We'll be back next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
DLC.
Cheers.